The unspoken letter. Baba Taiwo has spent 40 years as the village postman. He knew every dusty part, every family, and every secret the envelopes in his bag carried. Now retired, his days were quiet and uneventful. He spent most of his time on his wooden porch, sipping tea and reminiscing about the past. One sunny afternoon, while sorting through an old trunk of letters he had kept for sentimental reasons, he stumbled upon an envelope that stopped him in his tracks. The edges were yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. To Miss Ifeoma Adako. Baba Taiwo's hands trembled as he stared at the letter. He immediately remembered it, delivered to him decades ago, but somehow forgotten in the chaos of a busy post office day. Overwhelmed with guilt, Baba Taiwo knew he had to deliver the letter, even if it was decades too late. He asked around the village, but no one seemed to know Ifeoma or her family. "It's been so long," an elderly neighbor said, shaking his head. "She might have left, or—" He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. Undeterred, Baba Taiwo packed a small bag, tucked the letter safely into his pocket, and set out on foot to neighboring towns, asking for anyone who might have known Ifeoma. The search led him to an older woman named Mama Nkechi, who recognized the name. "Ifeoma was my cousin," she said. "She passed away many years ago, but her daughter, Ada, lives in the next town." Baba Taiwo's heart sank. He was too late. Still, he felt a duty to deliver the letter to Ada, hoping it might bring her some connection to the mother she lost. When he arrived in the bustling town, he found Ada running a small provision store. She was a woman in her 30s with sharp features and a quiet grace about her. When Baba Taiwo introduced himself and handed her the letter, she looked at it with a puzzled expression. "A letter for my mother." Ada opened the letter carefully. Baba Taiwo watched as her eyes scanned the page, her expression shifting from confusion to surprise, then to tears. She clutched the letter to her chest and whispered, "I never knew." The letter was from a man named Chukwuma, Ifeoma's childhood sweetheart. He had written it on the eve of his departure to another country, confessing his love and asking Ifeoma to wait for him. But the letter never arrived, and Ifeoma eventually married someone else. Ada explained that her mother often spoke of a man she had loved deeply but never reconnected with. "She always said he was the one who got away," Ada said, her voice breaking, "but she never mentioned his name." Baba Taiwo felt an overwhelming wave of guilt and sorrow. "I failed her," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "No," Ada said, shaking her head. "You gave me something precious today, a part of my mother's story that I never knew. This letter explains so much about who she was and the choices she made. It's like hearing her voice again, even for a moment." The word of the letter spread through the town, and people began to share their own stories of lost connections, missed opportunities, and unresolved emotions. Inspired by the impact of Ifeoma's letter, Baba Taiwo decided to dedicate the rest of his days to helping others find their unspoken messages. He organized a small community event where people could share their stories, reconnect with old friends, and even write letters they had been too afraid to send. Years later, long after Baba Taiwo had passed on, a statue was erected in his honor in the village square. At its base were the words, "Every message matters. Every story deserves to be told." Ada kept her mother's letter in a special box, passing it down to her children. It became a symbol of love, regrets, and the power of words to bridge even the widest gap of time. Through one forgotten letter, Babatai would not only mended a broken story, but also reminded everyone the importance of connection, no matter how long it takes.
A love left behind, a story of hearts that time couldn't buy.